Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video, and as you can tell, I'm going to be trying out a little more whiskey. Got a different backdrop for it this time, not the usual table. There's a reason for it. I'm trying to kind of combine a couple of looks here. This is sort of a Dungeons and Dragons sort of a setting and old school, old world wood kind of paneling look. The reason why is because we're going to be trying out some Crown Royal, which is one of Canada's best known whiskeys, and I was given this as a gift for Christmas, so I thought, all right, let's try this out. Now, I've had Crown Royal once recently, but it was during that thing I talked about at a Friday Drivey a little while ago, where it was like a high school reunion, and I wasn't really paying close attention to what it tasted like. Before that, I have not actually had Crown Royal ever. And so this is going to be my first time actually sampling it and tasting it and seeing what it's like. Why the Dungeons and Dragons reference? Why have we got this in a sort of pseudo-medieval setting? Well, first of all, it's Crown Royal has kind of a neat Dungeons and Dragons sort of a sound. This has got a well, there's an interesting shape going on here, and there's a reason for that, which I'll get to in a second. My first encounter with the name Crown Royal ever was in Dungeons and Dragons. Anybody who's played the game knows that quite often it's well known that people will use the blue, I think it's blue or purple, the velvet bag that Crown Royal comes in is very nice and also handy to use as a dice bag. And one of our D&D crowd actually did that. And as it turns out, that's quite a well-known thing. A lot of people use Crown Royal velvet containers for their dice for D&D. So this has actually got a kind of a D&D connection. Plus, you know, being the stuff of monarchy and stuff, it seems to be a nice fit. But now, interestingly, Crown Royal was created way back in 1939 because Canada here was celebrating that the monarch, King George VI, and his wife, Queen Elizabeth, were coming to visit Canada. And this was sort of the first time a reigning monarch had actually come for any kind of state visit thing. There had been kings and queens who had come to Canada way long before, but this was the first time it was while during the reign of the monarch in question. So Canada decided to celebrate. Let's make a whiskey for the exact purpose, Crown Royal. So that's that connection. And I've got myself a glass here. I was going to use my Blade Runner glass because I usually use that for most whiskey drinking, but since this is sort of D&D and sort of royal and monarchs and stuff, I got a slightly more fancy glass for this one. And this is also kind of timely because the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have recently decided they are maybe going to step down from their royal duties, and they are actually going to be living here in Canada, we think. So this is all kind of combined together. I figured just, you know what, let's have some Crown Royal. It's more than just a Dungeons and Dragons dice bag. So let's open her up and have a little sample here. All right. I believe all of the imagery, the kind of iconography of this Crown Royal bottle is in reference to the Windsors. So let's pop this off here, take the crown off, give it a nice sturdy, significant pour. And let's see what is Canada's answer to the monarchy like. Now, I remember, similar to whenever I tried, not so much Johnny Walker, there was a previous whiskey I had where, the Coors. When I had the Coors beer, that was a video I did because I remember somebody saying I had ordered Coors in a quick emergency situation, and somebody told me, no, you're not having Coors. We're not going to let you drink that. It's not very good, was their opinion. Turned out I actually quite liked Coors. So this one, when I remember playing Dungeons and Dragons and seeing that dice bag, I remember thinking, Crown Royal, that sounds very cool. What is that? And one of the crowd, I don't remember who it was, but they had said, yeah, The best thing about Crown Royal is that velvet bag. So they were implying that this whiskey is not very good, but this has quite a big following. It's well known in whiskey circles outside of Canada. So it's supposed to be a good brand. Let's give it the proper sniff and a taste. Okay, yeah, on the nose, I would say it's got a nice cinnamony kind of flavor or aroma going for it. Certainly not unpleasant. I don't really notice a big difference between it and other whiskeys, but my ability to detect the nuances of different whiskeys is still very much being learned, and so this is not easy for me to discern how good this is on the nose. But it seems all right. Which means there's nothing left to do but try some, so bottoms up. That's really nice, actually. It actually reminds me a lot of Jameson whiskey. It's very pleasant. I've heard whiskey experts describe Jameson as like a very friendly whiskey, and this is actually somewhat similar. It goes down very nicely. It has a very smooth delivery to it. Goes down very nicely, actually. No fiery burn or anything that I've heard from bad whiskeys. Some people have said Johnny Walker Red Label has that. I didn't really find it, but this, nothing like that. This is, I can see having this as a very social event. I don't know about any complexity to it. It's a very accessible whiskey. I mean, it's not one of our more expensive brands here in Canada. I wouldn't say it's cheap, but it is kind of the run-of-the-mill Canadian whiskey, and not that that's saying anything insulting about how Canadian whiskey is, but this stuff is pretty available a lot of places, and I can see why. It's very nice to have. I don't know that I would say there's a lot of complex notes to it, though. Let's have one more final go. But as to the complaints people have, no, this is nice. Anybody who says the only good thing about Crown Royal is the dice bag for Dungeons and Dragons, they're mistaken. This stuff is very pleasant. So yeah, I can see why we presented this to the king and queen at the time that it was originally made, and it has gone on to be a very popular and successful brand here in Canada. So there we go. There is Crown Royal, and I thought I would try that out in a setting that maybe combines all the different themes together. I sure hope. All right, well, until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.